What if everything you've been taught about human origins is only half the story? What if the very foundation of our existence reaches far beyond the familiar narrative of evolution, extending into realms that challenge our understanding of consciousness, reality, and our true spiritual heritage? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most extraordinary revelations ever channeled through Edgar Cayce, often called America's greatest psychic. Has this ever happened to you? You've looked up at the stars on a clear night and felt an inexplicable sense of longing, as if you're remembering something ancient and profound that you can't quite grasp. That feeling might be more accurate than you ever imagined. According to Cayce's remarkable readings, humanity's story begins not with a simple ascent from primitive matter, but with something far more mystical and complex. We're talking about multidimensional origins that completely reframe our understanding of who we are and where we truly come from. Stay with me until the end of this exploration, because what you're about to discover might fundamentally shift how you view your own existence and spiritual journey. The traditional evolution story tells us we climbed up from simpler life forms, gradually developing consciousness and intelligence over millions of years. But Cayce reveals there was something happening long before this familiar process ever began, what he calls an involution of consciousness. Picture this. Before there was any evolution upward through matter, there was a descent downward from pure spiritual energy into physical form. This isn't just philosophical speculation. We're talking about actual souls, conscious beings of light and energy, who existed for vast eons in non-physical states before ever taking on these physical vehicles we call our bodies. Has this ever happened to you? You've felt like you're more than just your physical form, like there's something deeper, more expansive about your true nature? According to these readings, that intuition is absolutely correct. The process Cayce describes is breathtaking in its scope. Imagine consciousness itself crystallizing, thought taking on increasingly dense forms, spirit gradually manifesting into matter through what he calls the crystallization of thought. This wasn't a random occurrence, but a purposeful journey that unfolded over unimaginable periods of time. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because this involution process explains so many mysteries that conventional science struggles to address. Why do we find evidence of ancient civilizations with knowledge and capabilities that seem impossible for their supposed level of development? Why do we have this persistent feeling that we're spiritual beings having a human experience rather than simply physical creatures who somehow developed consciousness? The implications are staggering. If Cayce is correct, then we're not just evolved animals who accidentally gained self-awareness. We're celestial beings who deliberately chose to experience physical existence, cosmic travelers who've temporarily forgotten our true nature and origins. This perspective doesn't diminish the wonder of evolution. It adds an entirely new dimension to it. Think about the profound shift this creates in how we understand our purpose here. Instead of being random products of biological processes, we become conscious participants in a vast spiritual experiment, souls on a journey of remembering and awakening to our true multidimensional nature. But this is just the beginning of the story. The real question becomes, if we descended from such exalted spiritual states, what happened during that long journey into matter? How did beings of pure consciousness become so deeply embedded in physical form that most of us have completely forgotten our cosmic heritage? And perhaps most importantly, what does this mean for our spiritual evolution and the future of human consciousness? The answer to these profound questions reveals one of the most transformative insights about human consciousness that you've probably never heard before. Here's the hidden truth that changes everything. When we incarnated into these physical bodies, we didn't bring our complete spiritual essence with us. We only projected a portion of our whole being into this dense reality. Think about this for a moment. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, touched on this same concept when he wrote about the shadow self and the collective unconscious. But Edgar Cayce went much deeper, revealing that behind the veil of our everyday awareness lies another portion of ourselves, our complete spiritual essence, that we must reconnect with to achieve full consciousness. This isn't just metaphysical theory. This explains why you sometimes feel like there's so much more to you than what you can access in daily life. It's why meditation feels like coming home, why certain dreams seem more real than waking life, why you have those moments of profound knowing that seem to come from nowhere. You're actually touching that other portion of yourself that exists beyond the physical veil. Most humans, according to these revelations, have never been able to fully connect with and bring through their complete spiritual essence since the beginning of physical incarnations. We're literally walking around as fragments of our true selves, operating with only partial access to our cosmic heritage and capabilities. But here's where the journey becomes even more fascinating. During humanity's early descent from spirit into matter, when we still maintained much of our spiritual awareness, we created something extraordinary. The ancient civilization that Cayce called Pacifica represents a time when humans possessed incredible awareness of natural forces and cosmic energies. This is the missing piece that explains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. How do we account for the sophisticated megalithic structures found all over our planet? Stonehenge, the pyramids of Egypt, Göbekli Tepe, the massive stone circles and astronomical observatories that required engineering knowledge that supposedly didn't exist thousands of years ago. The impact of understanding this changes everything about how we view ancient history. These weren't primitive people struggling with basic survival. They were beings who still retained enough of their spiritual consciousness to manipulate matter using cosmic forces. They could move massive stones weighing dozens of tons not through brute force or advanced machinery as we understand it, but through their retained connection to universal energies. Pacifica represents a period of high wisdom and cultural sophistication that mainstream archaeology can barely acknowledge because the evidence doesn't fit conventional timelines. But here's the fascinating part. Humans during this era were less dense in matter than we are today. They existed in a more ethereal state, which explains why archaeological evidence of their civilization remains so elusive. This revelation opens up an entirely new understanding of our spiritual journey and transformation potential. If our ancestors could access these capabilities when they maintained stronger connections to their complete spiritual essence, what does that mean for our own evolution and awakening? Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because what happened next in humanity's journey explains not only how we lost these incredible abilities, but also reveals the path back to reclaiming them. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to remember," if this resonates with your own inner knowing about human potential. The revelation becomes even more extraordinary when you understand what the name Pacifica actually represents. The word itself derives from an ancient term meaning ghost, which perfectly captures the ethereal nature of human consciousness during this remarkable period. We're talking about a time when humans existed more as ghost spirits than the dense physical beings we are today. Picture this transformation in your mind. These weren't solid, heavy bodies struggling against the limitations of matter. They were luminous, ethereal beings who could function and manipulate the physical world using pure cosmic energy. This spiritual technology is what allowed them to accomplish engineering feats that still baffle our most advanced scientists today. When you stand before the Great Pyramid and marvel at how massive stones weighing 80 tons were lifted and precisely positioned, you're witnessing the remnants of this lost spiritual science. The king's chamber wasn't built through mechanical force or complex machinery as we understand it. It was constructed through conscious manipulation of universal forces by beings who still retained their connection to cosmic energies. But here's where the journey takes a profound turn, and this is perhaps the most important insight for understanding our current human condition. As these souls made the decision to move deeper into physical matter, something unprecedented began to happen. They gradually started losing their awareness of cosmic dynamics and their natural connection to universal forces. This wasn't a sudden catastrophe or external event that stripped away our abilities. It was a gradual process driven by our own choices and mindset shifts. The more we became fascinated with dense physical experience, the more we traded our ethereal nature for solid matter. Each step deeper into physicality was like turning down the volume on our cosmic radio, until eventually, we could barely hear the universal frequencies that once guided our every action. Think about the profound impact of this transformation. What once was accomplished effortlessly through spiritual technology became increasingly difficult, then impossible, as we lost our harmonic connection with the forces that govern reality itself. We became trapped in purely physical consciousness, forgetting that we were ever anything more than these dense bodies struggling against the limitations of matter. This explains so much about the human condition today. Why do we feel disconnected from nature? Why do we struggle with a sense of separation and limitation? Why do ancient texts and traditions speak of golden ages and lost abilities that seem like fantasy to our modern minds? Because we're experiencing the end result of this long journey away from our original spiritual awareness. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything about how we view our current situation. This loss of cosmic awareness wasn't permanent or irreversible. It was part of a much larger spiritual experiment, a conscious choice to explore the depths of physical existence with the intention of eventually finding our way back to full consciousness, but this time bringing the wisdom and experience gained through our material journey. The decision to descend so deeply into matter has given us something unique in the cosmos. We've experienced separation and limitation in ways that purely spiritual beings never could. And now, as we begin to remember our true nature, we have the opportunity to consciously reunite our physical and spiritual awareness, creating a new form of consciousness that bridges both worlds. Now let me share with you what Edgar Cayce revealed about how this reconnection process actually works, because understanding the mechanics of spiritual awakening can accelerate your own transformation in ways you never imagined possible. Write in the comments, "I feel the awakening," if you sense this remembering beginning to stir within your own consciousness. The mechanics of this reconnection become even more fascinating when you discover the hidden truth about extraterrestrial contact that completely reframes everything we think we know about alien visitations. Edgar Cayce confirmed something that will shift your entire perspective on this topic. Yes, this planet has indeed been visited by beings from other worlds and planets throughout history. But here's the revelation that changes the whole conversation. We were those aliens. Let that sink in for a moment. There is literally no one native to this planet. Every single soul currently inhabiting Earth originally came from elsewhere in the universe. This means that when we discuss extraterrestrial contact, we're not talking about foreign invaders or mysterious visitors from distant worlds. We're talking about our own cosmic heritage, our own journey through the stars, our own return home. This transformation in understanding has a profound impact on how we view current UFO phenomena and contact experiences. When people report feeling a deep recognition or familiarity during these encounters, they're not imagining things. They're literally meeting their cosmic family, beings who share the same universal origins and spiritual heritage that we do. But here's where it gets even more personally relevant. The individual sitting next to you at work, your family members, the stranger you pass on the street. Each of these souls may have had their origins in completely different planetary systems before coming to Earth. Some may carry the influences of solar realms focused on intellectual development, others from dimensions emphasizing emotional mastery or creative expression. Think about the diverse personalities and natural abilities you encounter in daily life. One person seems naturally attuned to technology and logical thinking. Another has an intuitive understanding of emotions and relationships, while someone else demonstrates artistic gifts that seem to come from nowhere. These aren't just random genetic variations or environmental influences. They're the cosmic fingerprints of souls who developed their consciousness in different stellar environments before choosing the Earth experience. Yet here we all are now, regardless of our diverse cosmic origins, facing the same fundamental challenge. We're encased in these physical bodies, trying to figure out where we came from, what we're doing here, and how to return to our spiritual source while still maintaining our human experience. This shared predicament creates a beautiful unity despite our different stellar backgrounds. The journey each soul takes to reach this point of questioning and awakening follows its own unique pathway, but the destination remains the same. We're all seeking to remember our true nature and reconnect with the cosmic awareness we once possessed. The decisions we make about how to approach this remembering process determine not just our individual spiritual growth, but the collective evolution of human consciousness itself. Understanding your own cosmic heritage isn't about escaping Earth or rejecting your human experience. It's about integrating the wisdom and abilities you developed in other realms with the unique opportunities for growth that only physical incarnation can provide. This integration is what allows you to become a bridge between worlds, someone who can access both earthly wisdom and celestial consciousness. But recognizing your cosmic origins is just the beginning of a much deeper transformation. What Edgar Cayce revealed about the specific planetary influences that shape our personalities and spiritual gifts provides practical insights that can accelerate your awakening and help you understand your unique role in humanity's collective journey back to full consciousness. Write in the comments, "I remember the stars," if you feel that deep cosmic recognition stirring within your awareness. These planetary influences reveal themselves in ways that would astonish you, and Edgar Cayce demonstrated this cosmic recognition in the most remarkable manner. Picture this scene. A person would come to him for a reading, perhaps introducing themselves as being from California or New York, and Cayce would immediately respond with something like, "Oh, a Plutonian, how refreshing." The person would be completely bewildered, insisting they were born and raised in their earthly location. But Cayce wasn't referring to their physical birthplace at all. He was perceiving their soul's true cosmic origins, the stellar realm where their consciousness had developed its unique characteristics before choosing the Earth experience. This ability to see beyond the veil of physical identity revealed the hidden truth about human consciousness that most people never discover. Your earthly identity is just the surface layer of who you really are. What made Cayce's readings truly extraordinary was his focus on these cosmic sojourns, rather than limiting himself to past Earth lives. While other psychics might discuss your previous incarnations as a monk in Tibet or a merchant in ancient Rome, Cayce revealed the cosmic journeys your soul had taken between those earthly experiences. This completely revolutionizes how we understand personality development and spiritual growth. The transformation in perspective is profound when you realize that during those periods between Earth incarnations, souls aren't sitting in some waiting room or floating in suspended animation. You're actively experiencing life in other cosmic realms, traveling through what Cayce called stargates like Arcturus, having adventures and learning experiences throughout the vast universe. We are literally children of celestial dimensions, cosmic travelers with access to an infinite playground of consciousness. These interdimensional sojourns have a direct impact on who you are today, that unexplained attraction you have to certain subjects, those natural talents that seem to come from nowhere, the deep urges and spiritual dynamics that drive your life decisions. They're not random genetic quirks or environmental influences. They're the cosmic fingerprints of your adventures in other realms of existence. Think about your own personality traits and natural inclinations, your mindset about life, your automatic responses to challenges, the way you process emotions, your creative abilities. All of these carry the influences of your soul's experiences in celestial dimensions. Some people naturally gravitate towards scientific thinking because they've spent significant time in realms focused on universal laws and cosmic mechanics. Others have an intuitive understanding of healing because they've sojourned in dimensions where energy work and consciousness restoration are primary activities. This understanding reveals why traditional psychology and personality development theories only scratch the surface of human potential. They're trying to explain cosmic beings using purely earthly frameworks, like trying to understand a symphony by analyzing only the sheet music without hearing the actual music. Your journey through these stellar realms before incarnating on Earth was specifically designed to prepare you for the unique role you're meant to play in humanity's collective awakening. The combination of cosmic experiences you've accumulated creates a one-of-a-kind spiritual toolkit that no one else possesses in exactly the same configuration. But understanding your cosmic background is just the beginning of recognizing how these celestial influences continue to shape your earthly experience. What Edgar Cayce revealed about the ongoing connection between planetary realms and human consciousness opens up practical pathways for accessing these higher abilities right now, in your current physical incarnation. Write in the comments, "I feel my cosmic nature," if these revelations are awakening memories of your own stellar adventures. The practical pathways for accessing these abilities reveal something that will fundamentally change how you understand your own spiritual development. Here's a revelation that most people miss completely. Not everything in your current personality and life patterns stems from your past Earth lives. The majority of what you experience as natural urges, unexplained talents, and deep personality characteristics actually comes from your celestial experiences in other dimensional realms. This transforms everything about how we approach personal growth and spiritual awakening. Traditional karma-focused approaches assume that all your current challenges and gifts trace back to previous Earth incarnations, but that's only part of the story. The real behind-the-scenes influence shaping your consciousness comes from adventures your soul has had in cosmic dimensions that exist beyond physical reality. This is why Edgar Cayce, much like Carl Jung, understood that astronomical dynamics hold genuine significance for human development. But it's not because the stars were positioned a certain way when you were born, as traditional astrology suggests. The impact comes from the fact that you've actually had lived experiences in those planetary dimensions between your Earth incarnations. When you feel drawn to certain healing modalities, technological innovations, or creative expressions, you're not just accessing random talents. You're remembering skills and knowledge you developed during sojourns in realms specifically designed for those types of consciousness exploration. Your mindset about relationships, your approach to problem solving, your natural leadership style. These aren't just products of your current lifetime's experiences, or even past Earth lives. They're the accumulated wisdom from your cosmic education. But here's a crucial insight that will protect you on your spiritual journey. The hidden truth about cosmic consciousness reveals that beings from other dimensions and planets are not inherently more advanced or brilliant than humans. This is one of the most important revelations for anyone exploring expanded awareness, because it challenges a fundamental assumption that leads many people astray. Just like us, extraterrestrial and interdimensional beings operate under the universal principle of free will. Some have evolved spiritually and achieved higher consciousness, while others remain confused, self-serving, or even malevolent in their intentions. The fact that an entity can communicate from another dimension or demonstrate advanced technology doesn't automatically make them wiser or more trustworthy than human consciousness. This understanding has profound implications for anyone receiving channeled information, experiencing contact phenomena, or exploring interdimensional communication. The same discernment you would use with any human interaction applies equally to cosmic contact. Just because someone claims to speak from the Pleiades or Arcturus doesn't mean their message represents universal truth or divine wisdom. The transformation in perspective this brings is liberating. You don't need to surrender your inner authority to any external source of information, whether earthly or cosmic. Your own connection to divine consciousness is just as valid and powerful as any interdimensional entity's perspective. The journey of awakening involves developing your own direct relationship with cosmic wisdom rather than depending on intermediaries. This principle of cosmic free will also explains why some contact experiences feel uplifting and expansive, while others leave people feeling drained or manipulated. Not all cosmic beings have humanity's best interests at heart, just as not all humans consistently make decisions from their highest consciousness. Now, I want to explore how this understanding of cosmic free will connects to the larger story of human consciousness evolution, because what happened in our ancient past reveals both the potential dangers and incredible opportunities we face as we reclaim our multidimensional awareness. Write in the comments, "I trust my inner guidance," if you recognize the importance of maintaining your spiritual sovereignty on this cosmic journey. The larger story of human consciousness evolution reveals something extraordinary about our current situation that will completely reframe how you view the challenges and opportunities of living in this time period. According to ancient Iroquois legends, there was a time when the doorways between dimensions remained wide open, allowing consciousness to flow freely between realms in ways that would seem impossible to us today. Picture this radically different human experience. In ancient times, souls weren't sealed into physical vehicles the way we are now. Unlike our current situation where the soft spot in an infant's head closes permanently, trapping consciousness within dense matter for an entire lifetime, ancient humans maintained the ability to come and go between dimensions as easily as we might travel between cities. These beings could manifest here on Earth, develop relationships, engage in learning experiences, and then consciously withdraw their awareness to engage in deeper meditations within other planetary realms like Venus or Jupiter. This wasn't some mystical fantasy or spiritual metaphor. This was the natural state of human consciousness before we made collective decisions that led to our current imprisonment in purely physical awareness. The transformation in understanding this brings is profound. We're not evolving toward multidimensional consciousness for the first time. We're actually returning to capabilities that were once our natural birthright. The journey we're on isn't about developing new spiritual abilities, but about remembering and reclaiming what we once possessed as our normal way of being. But here's where the story takes an incredibly hopeful turn that has direct implications for your own spiritual development right now. The new age that Edgar Cayce prophesied isn't some distant, vague possibility. It's an approaching reality that represents humanity's release from the bondage of purely material consciousness. This coming transformation will expand human awareness from the limited self-consciousness we've been trapped in for millennia into the more luminous, expanded consciousness that connects us directly with universal intelligence. The impact of this shift won't just affect individual spiritual seekers. It will fundamentally alter the entire human experience on this planet. Perhaps the most remarkable revelation Cayce shared about this approaching age is his prophecy that the people of the earth are going to meet the people of the universe. This isn't referring to some external contact event where alien ships land on the White House lawn. This is about a reunion with our cosmic family, a conscious reconnection with the interdimensional beings who share our spiritual heritage and cosmic origins. The dimensional doorways that were closed in ancient times are beginning to reopen. The decisions humanity made collectively to explore the depths of physical existence have served their purpose. We've gained wisdom and experience that can only come through complete immersion in material reality. Now we're approaching the point where we can consciously choose to expand beyond these limitations while retaining the valuable insights we've gained. This means that the spiritual practices, consciousness expansion techniques, and interdimensional awareness you're developing now aren't just personal hobbies or new age interests. You're literally preparing yourself for a species-wide transformation that will restore humanity's natural multidimensional capabilities. The mindset shifts you're making, the meditative practices you're exploring, the cosmic connections you're beginning to feel, these are all part of your soul's preparation for participating in this unprecedented planetary awakening. Now, I want to reveal how this cosmic reunion actually unfolds in practical terms, because understanding the mechanics of dimensional expansion can accelerate your own preparation for this extraordinary transformation. Write in the comments, "I'm preparing for the reunion," if you feel called to be part of this cosmic awakening process. The mechanics of dimensional expansion become clearer when you understand the cautionary tale that Edgar Cayce revealed about our distant past, because this story contains both the blueprint for spiritual technology and the warning signs we must recognize to avoid repeating ancient mistakes. The civilization he called Oceania represents one of the most profound examples of both humanity's potential and the dangers of misusing cosmic consciousness. Picture a civilization that existed around 250,000 years ago, possessing technologies and awareness that would seem like pure magic to our current understanding. This wasn't some primitive society struggling with basic survival. Oceania was a high, marvelous culture that had achieved what we might call the perfect balance between spiritual consciousness and physical manifestation. For nearly 200,000 years, they maintained an idealistic society that represented humanity at its absolute peak. But here's where the story becomes a crucial lesson for our own transformation journey. This magnificent civilization didn't collapse overnight through external catastrophe or natural disaster. The hidden truth behind their downfall reveals a pattern that we're seeing echoes of in our modern world. Gradually, over thousands of years, their consciousness began to shift from unity and service toward separation, competition, and self-centered aggression. By around 60,000 BC, the same beings who had once embodied cosmic wisdom had become violent, materialistic, and disconnected from their original spiritual purpose. Their mindset had transformed from cooperative expansion of consciousness to domination-based thinking that viewed others as threats rather than fellow expressions of universal intelligence. The most revealing aspect of this decline wasn't just their change in behavior, but what happened to their sacred technology. The Oceanians possessed crystal systems that could accomplish things our current science considers impossible. These weren't just decorative stones or simple tools, they were consciousness-amplifying devices that could expand individual minds into collective awareness, allowing entire communities to think and create as unified beings. These same crystals could rejuvenate physical bodies through precisely controlled radiation frequencies, essentially reversing aging and healing diseases at the cellular level. Imagine having access to technology that could restore your body to peak vitality while simultaneously expanding your consciousness to cosmic proportions. This was everyday reality for ancient Oceania. But as their spiritual awareness deteriorated, something tragic occurred that serves as a warning for any civilization developing advanced consciousness technologies. The exact same crystal systems that had once been used for healing and illumination were gradually repurposed into weapons of mass destruction. The beautiful healing rays became death rays, the consciousness-expanding frequencies became mind-control devices, and the regenerative energies became forces of annihilation. This represents the classic pattern that emerges whenever spiritual technology falls into the hands of consciousness focused on separation rather than unity. The technology itself remains neutral, but the intentions and awareness of those operating it determine whether it serves creation or destruction. The impact of this shift wasn't just the loss of their advanced capabilities, but the complete corruption of the very tools that had made their golden age possible. The decisions they made during this decline mirror choices we face today as humanity rediscovers its cosmic potential. As we develop artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and quantum technologies, we're essentially recreating versions of the same consciousness-amplifying tools that Oceania once possessed. Now, I want to explore what Edgar Cayce revealed about how we can avoid repeating this ancient pattern, because understanding the specific mindset shifts that lead to technological corruption is essential for navigating our own spiritual and technological evolution safely. Write in the comments, "I choose unity over separation," if you recognize the importance of maintaining spiritual integrity as we reclaim our cosmic abilities. The specific mindset shifts that led to this technological corruption reveal a pattern so subtle that most people never recognize it happening in their own consciousness until it's too late. The transformation didn't begin with obvious evil intentions or sudden moral collapse. It started with something that seems almost innocent on the surface: the gradual development of we and them, thinking that slowly replaced their natural awareness of universal oneness. Think about how this plays out in your own daily experience. When you start viewing life through the lens of competition rather than collaboration, when your decisions become focused on protecting your interests against their threats, you're following the exact same pathway that led to Oceania's downfall. The emergence of mine and yours consciousness, where mine is always bigger and better than yours, creates a distortion in awareness that makes harmonic unity impossible to maintain. This individualization process is incredibly seductive because it feels like personal empowerment and self-determination. But what's actually happening behind the scenes is the systematic dismantling of your connection to collective consciousness. Once you begin viewing others as separate entities competing for limited resources, rather than expressions of the same universal intelligence, exploring different perspectives, you've crossed a threshold that makes spiritual technology dangerous. The impact of this shift is profound because it changes not just how you relate to others, but how you relate to power itself. When consciousness becomes focused on separation and competition, any tool or ability you possess automatically becomes a weapon for defending your territory rather than an instrument for serving collective evolution. This is why the same crystal technology that once expanded minds into cosmic awareness became death rays in the hands of separated consciousness. But here's the fascinating contrast that offers hope for our current journey. Before this tragic decline, humanity had experienced something far more magnificent during the ancient civilization that Cayce called Pacifica. This represents our species' earliest and most spiritually advanced period on Earth, lasting for millions of years, according to the readings. Understanding what consciousness was like during this era provides the blueprint for avoiding Oceania's mistakes. During Pacifica's golden age, humans existed more as spirits than physical beings. Picture consciousness so refined and luminous that material manipulation required no tools or technology as we understand it. These ghost-like entities could shape matter through pure spiritual intention, creating and transforming their environment through direct interface with the fundamental forces of reality. This wasn't primitive spirituality trying to influence an external world. This was consciousness operating from such an expanded perspective that the distinction between inner awareness and outer manifestation simply didn't exist. When you function from unity consciousness, you don't need to compete for resources or defend territories, because you recognize that all apparent separations are illusions within one infinite field of creative intelligence. The decisions made during Pacifica's era reflect a completely different relationship with power and manifestation. Rather than developing technologies to control external forces, consciousness itself was the technology. Rather than building weapons to defend against enemies, there were no enemies, because all consciousness was recognized as expressions of the same universal source, exploring different facets of existence. This represents humanity's true spiritual heritage and the level of consciousness we're now evolving back toward. The journey through physical density and technological development wasn't a mistake or punishment. It was a conscious exploration, designed to gain experiences and wisdom that could only be acquired through complete immersion in material reality. Now, I want to reveal how Edgar Cayce described the specific process through which consciousness transitions between these different states of awareness, because understanding these mechanics can help you navigate your own spiritual evolution while avoiding the pitfalls that destroyed previous civilizations. Write in the comments, "I choose unity consciousness," if you feel ready to transcend the separation mindset that limits human potential. The specific process Edgar Cayce described for consciousness transitions reveals one of the most extraordinary episodes in human spiritual history, hidden within ancient legends that most people dismiss as mythology. According to Aztec traditions, there came a point when the children of God, these spiritual beings who had been experimenting with physical manifestation, realized they had gotten themselves into a predicament that required divine intervention. Picture this cosmic consultation. The souls withdrew into what the Aztecs called 7 sacred chambers, essentially interdimensional council spaces where they could commune directly with the Divine Mother about their situation on Earth. This wasn't prayer or meditation as we understand it today. This was direct communication between conscious beings about solving a practical problem that was threatening their spiritual evolution. The issue they presented was profound. These spiritual entities had been experimenting with inhabiting various physical forms, sometimes merging with animals, sometimes manifesting temporary bodies, sometimes existing as pure consciousness interacting with matter. But none of these approaches provided the stable, ideal vehicle they needed for long-term exploration of physical reality without losing their spiritual awareness. The Divine Mother's response transformed everything about human evolution. She advised them that they needed a perfect physical vehicle, a form specifically designed to house cosmic consciousness while navigating dense material reality. This consultation led to the most ambitious consciousness project ever undertaken, the development of what the Aztecs called the Golden Dawn, people described as perfect in every way, and representing the first ideal physical vehicles for spiritual beings. These weren't evolutionary accidents or random genetic developments. The Golden Dawn people were consciously designed beings, created through collaboration between spiritual intelligence and divine wisdom to serve as the prototype for embodied cosmic consciousness. Every aspect of their physical form, from their nervous system to their energy centers, was specifically engineered to maintain connection with higher dimensional awareness while functioning effectively in third-dimensional reality. The impact of this revelation completely reframes how you understand your own physical body. You're not trapped in a meat suit that limits your spiritual potential. You're operating a sophisticated consciousness interface system designed by cosmic intelligence to allow infinite awareness to explore finite experience. The challenges you face in accessing your spiritual abilities aren't design flaws. They're features that ensure you gain the specific types of wisdom that can only be acquired through temporary limitation. But some souls carry even deeper memories that reveal just how fluid the boundaries between spiritual and physical existence once were. These far memories reach back to times before full-spectrum vision had even developed, when the world appeared in beige and brown tones, with only hints of purple visible in the magnificent birds that soared through ancient skies. During this primordial period, the distinction between being in a body and being out of a body was almost meaningless. Souls could leave their physical forms as easily as you might step out of a room, joining with these great birds to fly through landscapes that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The hidden truth behind these memories is that other spirits were doing the same thing, creating a fluid community of consciousness that moved freely between physical and non-physical states of being. This represents a time when your spiritual ancestors possessed capabilities that seem impossible from our current perspective. The boundary between spiritual and physical existence was so permeable that consciousness could flow between states without effort or technique. You didn't need special training or years of meditation to access interdimensional travel. It was simply your natural way of being. These memories, when they surface in modern consciousness, often feel more real and vivid than current life experiences because they're touching something fundamental about your true nature that has been suppressed by physical density. Now, I want to explore how these ancient capabilities connect to the practical transformation techniques that Edgar Cayce revealed for reclaiming your multidimensional awareness in your current incarnation. Write in the comments, "I remember flying free," if these ancient memories are stirring recognition within your own consciousness. The practical transformation techniques that Edgar Cayce revealed begin with understanding why these ancient capabilities were eventually restricted, because this knowledge holds the key to safely reclaiming your multidimensional awareness without repeating the mistakes that led to their loss. The sacred partnership between spiritual consciousness and animal forms represents one of the most fascinating chapters in human spiritual evolution, and also one of the most instructive. About the importance of respecting universal laws. Picture the reality that existed before ideal human vehicles were created. Spirits who lacked appropriate physical forms would merge their essence and sensory perception with existing creatures like birds, mammals, or other beings already established on Earth. This wasn't possession or domination as we might imagine it today. This was conscious partnership, where spiritual intelligence would temporarily inhabit animal forms to experience physical reality while the animal consciousness gained exposure to expanded awareness. The mythological beings we read about in ancient texts, centaurs, sphinx-like creatures, winged humanoids, these aren't pure fantasy or symbolic metaphors. They're collective memories of this merging period, when the boundaries between species were fluid and consciousness could flow between different types of physical vehicles. The hidden truth behind these legends reveals a time when transformation between forms was not only possible but commonplace. However, this practice eventually created problems that required divine intervention to resolve. Each species, according to cosmic law, was designed to serve its own evolutionary purpose and consciousness development. When spiritual beings began regularly inhabiting forms meant for other types of awareness, it created confusion and imbalance in the natural order. The impact of this mixing meant that neither the spiritual beings nor the animal consciousness could fully express their intended purposes. This violation of natural law became one of the driving forces behind the consultation in the 7 sacred chambers and the subsequent creation of the Golden Dawn people. The universe needed vehicles specifically designed for cosmic consciousness to inhabit without disrupting the evolutionary journeys of other species. Your current human form represents the solution to this ancient dilemma, a physical vehicle perfectly calibrated for spiritual awareness. But the story of consciousness evolution didn't end with the creation of ideal human forms. After the tragic cycles of Oceania and the corruption of crystal technology, there was a great migration to what we now call the Nile region. This wasn't just a geographical relocation. This was a conscious effort by surviving wisdom keepers to redeem and restore the spiritual knowledge that had been lost during the technological corruption. While many people today associate ancient Egypt with darkness, mystery, or even malevolent practices, Edgar Cayce revealed that there were actually beautiful cycles of light and wisdom in this region. The goal wasn't to create new spiritual technologies from scratch, but to reconstruct the consciousness-expanding tools and awareness that had been corrupted in the crystal civilizations. The mindset behind this restoration project was fundamentally different from Oceania's later period. Instead of using spiritual technology for personal, power, or competitive advantage, the Nile region wisdom keepers approached reconstruction with service consciousness and unity awareness. They understood that the same tools that had become weapons of destruction could be transformed back into instruments of healing and consciousness expansion if operated from the right intentions. This represents one of the most hopeful aspects of our current spiritual awakening. The abilities and technologies we're rediscovering today aren't new inventions. They're ancient capabilities being restored with the wisdom gained from previous mistakes. The decisions we make about how to develop and apply these emerging consciousness tools will determine whether we repeat the patterns that led to destruction or create something unprecedented in human history. Now, I want to explore the specific techniques that Edgar Cayce recommended for safely accessing these restored capabilities, because understanding the proper preparation and approach can accelerate your own spiritual development while protecting you from the pitfalls that destroyed previous civilizations. Write in the comments, "I honor natural law," if you recognize the importance of respecting cosmic principles while developing your spiritual abilities. The specific techniques that Edgar Cayce recommended for safely accessing restored capabilities begin with understanding one of the most significant transformations in human consciousness evolution, a change so fundamental that it's encoded in the creation stories of nearly every spiritual tradition on Earth. Around 126,000 BC, during the height of Oceania's spiritual development, a key transition occurred that would forever alter how consciousness experiences physical reality. Picture the profound decision that was made during this period. The androgynous beings who had been exploring physical incarnation realized that their current form, while spiritually complete, limited their ability to fully experience the creative forces that govern material reality. The transformation they chose wasn't driven by physical necessity or evolutionary pressure. This was a conscious experiment in consciousness design, intended to create deeper understanding of universal creative principles. The separation into individual male and female forms represents one of the most sophisticated consciousness engineering projects ever undertaken. The feminine form, embodying the yin principle, was designed to reflect the internalization of creative energy. Every aspect of this form mirrors the cosmic creative process. The cycles of the moon representing natural rhythms, internal conception showing how consciousness gestates new realities, the hidden womb symbolizing the sacred space where potential becomes manifestation, and the ability to bring forth life and nourishment from within, demonstrating the feminine role in universal creativity. The masculine form, expressing the yang principle, was engineered to embody externalized, creative energy. The sword carrier represents the ability to cut through illusion and establish clear boundaries. The plower of fields symbolizes the capacity to prepare consciousness for new growth, and the projected dynamic energy demonstrates the masculine role in initiating creative action and manifesting ideas in physical reality. This wasn't just about creating physical gender differences. This was about allowing individual souls to specialize in different aspects of cosmic creative force, while maintaining the potential to eventually reunite these complementary energies within expanded consciousness. The impact of this separation created the foundation for everything we understand about relationship, creativity, and spiritual development. The Hebrew creation account preserves this ancient memory with remarkable accuracy. When the text describes the Lord saying, "They are lonesome here," and casting a deep sleep over the androgynous being before pulling out the feminine aspect, it's recording this 126,000-year-old consciousness engineering project. The loneliness wasn't emotional isolation, as we might interpret it today. It was the recognition that unified consciousness needed to experience itself, through relationship and creative partnership, to fully understand its own nature. The Hebrew word kava, meaning life-giver, was specifically chosen to describe the separated feminine essence because it captures the fundamental role of feminine consciousness in bringing potential into manifestation. But here's the hidden truth that most people miss when reading these creation stories. This separation wasn't permanent or intended to create permanent division between masculine and feminine consciousness. The deeper meaning behind this ancient transformation reveals that every soul, regardless of current physical gender, contains both masculine and feminine archetypal principles. The journey of spiritual development involves learning to access and integrate both aspects of creative consciousness within your individual awareness. The decisions you make about how to balance and express these complementary energies determine your ability to access the full spectrum of creative abilities that were originally unified in androgynous consciousness. This understanding provides the foundation for the consciousness expansion techniques that Edgar Cayce recommended, because reclaiming your multidimensional awareness requires integrating the separated aspects of your cosmic nature that have been exploring different facets of creative expression through the gender experiment. Now, I want to reveal how this integration process actually works in practical terms, because understanding the mechanics of reuniting masculine and feminine consciousness within your individual awareness is essential for safely accessing the advanced spiritual abilities we've been exploring. Write in the comments, "I integrate both energies," if you're ready to consciously work with the masculine and feminine aspects of your cosmic nature. The integration process actually works through understanding something that will revolutionize how you view your entire existence: the hidden truth about what happens to consciousness between physical incarnations. Edgar Cayce's vision of soul life reveals that your spiritual development doesn't pause when you leave a physical body. Instead, there's extensive activity and learning occurring in fourth and fifth dimensional realms that directly impacts your ability to access advanced consciousness abilities in your current incarnation. Picture your soul's journey between lives not as some passive waiting period or ethereal vacation, but as intensive cosmic education. While your physical body returns to Earth, your consciousness is actively exploring realms of existence that operate according to completely different principles than third-dimensional reality. You're learning to manipulate energy through pure intention, experiencing direct telepathic communication, and participating in collaborative creation projects with other souls who share your developmental interests. This perspective completely transforms how you understand your current spiritual abilities and challenges. The intuitive insights that seem to come from nowhere, the unexplained talents you've possessed since childhood, the deep knowing about healing or energy work that you can't trace to any earthly training. These aren't random gifts or genetic accidents. They're skills you developed during your sojourns in celestial realms, carried forward into your current incarnation as part of your cosmic toolkit. The impact of recognizing this continuous soul development reveals why some people seem naturally gifted at accessing multidimensional awareness, while others struggle with basic meditation techniques. Your comfort level with expanded consciousness directly relates to how much time you've spent developing these abilities in non-physical realms between incarnations. What's fascinating is that many brilliant Western minds understood this continuity of consciousness long before Eastern philosophy became popular in the West. Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers and a renowned inventor, wrote at 27 years old that the soul is immortal and will be treated with justice in another life. He compared death to sleep, expressing his conviction that we shall rise refreshed in the morning of a new incarnation. Franklin's understanding went far beyond simple survival of consciousness. At that same young age, he wrote his own epitaph describing his physical body as an old book whose contents would appear again in a new, more elegant edition, revised by the author. This reveals a sophisticated grasp of reincarnation as conscious soul development, rather than just endless repetition of earthly experience. The mindset Franklin demonstrated shows how Western rational thinking and spiritual wisdom can work together rather than being in conflict. He approached reincarnation not as mystical belief, but as logical conclusion, based on observing the patterns of consciousness and the principles of justice that govern existence. His decisions about how to live his current life were influenced by understanding that his soul would continue developing beyond physical death. This integration of practical wisdom with cosmic perspective provides the perfect foundation for safely accessing the advanced spiritual abilities we've been exploring. When you understand that your current incarnation is just one phase of continuous soul development, you approach consciousness expansion with patience and respect for natural timing, rather than trying to force dramatic experiences or bypass necessary preparation. The journey of reuniting masculine and feminine consciousness within your awareness becomes much more manageable when you realize you've been working on this integration across multiple incarnations and dimensional sojourns. Your soul has been preparing for this reunification process for far longer than your current personality realizes. Now, I want to reveal the specific stages of consciousness development that Edgar Cayce outlined for this integration process, because understanding where you are in this cosmic curriculum can help you make more informed decisions about your spiritual practices and development goals. Write in the comments, "My soul remembers learning," if you recognize the continuity of your consciousness development across multiple levels of existence. The specific stages of consciousness development that Edgar Cayce outlined become remarkably clear when you understand how other brilliant minds throughout history have glimpsed the same cosmic curriculum. Leo Tolstoy, one of Russia's greatest writers and spiritual philosophers, articulated this understanding with extraordinary clarity when he described reincarnation as living through thousands of dreams within our present life, with our current existence being just one of many thousands of such lives. Think about the profound implications of Tolstoy's perspective. Just as you experience countless dreams during a single night's sleep, each feeling completely real while you're in it, your current physical incarnation is like one dream within the vast sleep of your eternal soul. The transformation this understanding brings to daily life is remarkable. It helps you take your current challenges seriously, without becoming overwhelmed by them, knowing they're temporary experiences within a much larger spiritual journey. Tolstoy saw our present life as emerging from and returning to a more real spiritual existence, with this pattern continuing endlessly until reaching the ultimate reality, the life of the divine. This isn't escapism or denial of physical reality. This is recognition that your earthly experience gains meaning and purpose precisely because it's part of a cosmic educational process designed to expand your consciousness toward divine awareness. The hidden truth behind this perspective reveals why certain experiences feel more significant than others in your current life. Those moments of deep recognition, profound love, or spiritual breakthrough aren't just pleasant feelings. They're glimpses of the more real spiritual existence that Tolstoy described, bleeding through into your current incarnation to remind you of your true nature and purpose. But perhaps even more fascinating is the evidence that reincarnation was clearly understood within Jewish thought during the 1st century, contrary to the religious doctrines that later rejected this understanding of soul continuity and development. Josephus, the famous Jewish historian who lived during Jesus' time, wrote that pure and holy spirits live in heavenly places and are eventually sent down to inhabit righteous bodies. This reveals that the concept of soul development through multiple incarnations wasn't some foreign Eastern import that later infiltrated Western spirituality. It was an integral part of the spiritual understanding within the very culture where Christianity emerged. The decisions made by later religious authorities to suppress this knowledge had profound consequences for how Western civilization approached spiritual development and consciousness expansion. The impact of understanding this historical context is significant for your own spiritual journey. Many of the resistance, patterns, and mental blocks you might experience when exploring expanded consciousness aren't necessarily personal limitations. They're often inherited cultural programming that separated Western minds from concepts that were once naturally understood within our own spiritual traditions. Josephus's description of spirits being sent down to inhabit bodies reveals a sophisticated understanding of incarnation as purposeful assignment rather than random occurrence. Your current life situation, the family you were born into, the challenges and opportunities you face, these weren't accidental circumstances, but carefully chosen conditions designed to facilitate specific types of soul growth and consciousness development. This perspective connects directly to Edgar Cayce's teachings about planetary sojourns and cosmic education between incarnations. The consciousness development that occurs in celestial realms prepares souls for increasingly complex earthly assignments, with each incarnation building upon the wisdom and abilities acquired in previous cycles of spiritual education. Now, I want to explore how this cosmic curriculum actually manifests in your daily life, because recognizing the specific lessons your soul is working on in this incarnation can accelerate your spiritual development and help you make decisions that align with your deeper spiritual purpose. Write in the comments, "I trust the cosmic curriculum," if you recognize that your current life experiences are part of a larger spiritual education designed for your consciousness development. How this cosmic curriculum actually manifests in your daily life becomes clear when you understand that even the greatest philosophical minds of ancient Greece grasped these same principles that Edgar Cayce later revealed in such detail. Socrates, considered one of the foundational thinkers of Western philosophy, expressed complete confidence in the reality of souls continuing after death and returning to life again, through what he called the eternal cycle of existence. Picture Socrates' understanding of this process. He recognized that the living literally spring from the dead, meaning that every person you encounter has emerged from previous cycles of existence in non-physical dimensions. But what's even more remarkable is his insight that departed souls remain active at levels beyond our physical senses, engaged in ongoing development and experiences that directly influence their subsequent incarnations. This wasn't abstract philosophical speculation for Socrates. This was practical wisdom that informed his approach to teaching and his famous method of questioning that revealed hidden truths within people's consciousness. He understood that the knowledge and wisdom he was helping students discover wasn't being created from nothing. It was being remembered from previous learning experiences in other dimensions of existence. The transformation this brings to how you understand your own learning and growth is profound. Those moments when complex concepts suddenly click into place, when you have insights that seem to come from beyond your current level of experience, when you find yourself naturally understanding things you've never formally studied. These aren't signs of intellectual brilliance or random inspiration. They're evidence of your soul accessing knowledge gained during previous phases of your cosmic education. But perhaps even more significant are the biblical references that clearly indicate reincarnation was understood and accepted within the spiritual context where Jesus taught. When Jesus confirmed that Elijah had returned as John the Baptist, he wasn't speaking metaphorically or symbolically. He was stating a literal fact about soul continuity and purposeful reincarnation that his disciples apparently understood without confusion or surprise. The hidden truth behind this revelation is that the concept of souls choosing specific incarnations to fulfill particular spiritual missions was common knowledge within first-century Jewish spirituality. The disciples' question about a man born blind, whether he or his parents had sinned to cause this condition, only makes sense within a framework that acknowledges pre-existence and karmic influences from activities prior to physical birth. Think about the implications of this understanding for your own life challenges and circumstances, the difficulties you face, the natural talents you possess, the relationships that feel immediately familiar, the career paths that call to you despite having no logical explanation for the attraction. These aren't random occurrences or purely genetic influences. They're the manifestation of decisions your soul made before incarnating, designed to provide specific types of growth experiences and opportunities for service. This perspective doesn't diminish personal responsibility or suggest that challenging circumstances are punishment for past actions. Instead, it reveals that your soul actively chose these particular learning experiences because they offer optimal conditions for developing consciousness and abilities that align with your cosmic purpose and spiritual mission. The mindset shift this creates is remarkable. Instead of feeling victimized by difficult circumstances or confused by unexplained attractions and talents, you begin to recognize that your current incarnation represents a carefully crafted curriculum designed by your own higher wisdom to accelerate your spiritual development and prepare you for expanded service to the collective awakening of human consciousness. Now, I want to reveal the specific techniques Edgar Cayce recommended for consciously accessing this higher wisdom and connecting with the cosmic intelligence that designed your current incarnation, because understanding how to communicate with this deeper aspect of yourself can provide guidance for navigating your spiritual journey with clarity and confidence. Write in the comments, "I recognize my soul's choices," if you're beginning to see how your current life circumstances reflect your soul's educational plan for this incarnation. The specific techniques Edgar Cayce recommended for consciously accessing this higher wisdom become much more understandable when you realize that his own extraordinary abilities developed from the same cosmic consciousness principles we've been exploring. His journey from ordinary child to America's most documented psychic demonstrates that these capabilities aren't supernatural gifts reserved for special individuals. They're natural functions of human consciousness that can be developed through proper understanding and practice. Picture young Edgar discovering his unusual abilities in the most practical way possible. When his father was testing him on spelling words for a school exam, and Edgar couldn't spell any of them correctly, he made what seemed like an impossible request. He asked his father to let him sleep on the book for just 15 minutes, promising he would then be able to spell all the words. His father, probably more out of curiosity than belief, agreed to this unusual experiment. What happened next demonstrated something profound about how consciousness can access information beyond the limitations of normal sensory perception. After those 15 minutes of sleeping on the book, Edgar not only knew how to spell every word his father tested him on, but could recall every single word in the entire book and identify exactly which page each word appeared on. This wasn't memorization in any conventional sense. This was direct consciousness interface with information through altered states of awareness. The transformation this represents is remarkable. Edgar had discovered, quite by accident, that his consciousness could absorb and process information through means that completely bypassed traditional learning methods. But more importantly, he had stumbled upon a technique for accessing what we might call the cosmic database, the universal field of information that contains all knowledge and experience. For over 25 years, Edgar used refined versions of this same consciousness expansion technique to give health readings that revolutionized how we understand the connection between mind, body, and spirit. Using self-hypnosis to enter the same type of altered state he had discovered as a child, he could perceive people's bodies as if through X-ray vision, seeing not just current physical conditions, but the complete history of how past events, emotions, and experiences had created present ailments. The impact of his health readings was extraordinary because they revealed ailments and root causes that medical professionals using conventional diagnostic methods often couldn't identify. His psychic diagnosis frequently uncovered hidden infections, structural problems, and systemic imbalances years before they would have been detected through standard medical examination. But what made his readings truly revolutionary was his ability to trace current health problems back to their original causes, sometimes decades earlier. Behind the scenes of these remarkable healings was Edgar's access to what he called the Akashic Records, the cosmic repository of every thought, emotion, and experience that every soul has ever had across all incarnations and dimensional sojourns. This wasn't just individual psychic ability. This was demonstration of how human consciousness, when properly aligned, can tap into the universal intelligence that contains all information about every soul's journey through space and time. The decisions Edgar made about how to develop and use these abilities provide a perfect example of the responsible approach to consciousness expansion that prevents the corruption we saw in ancient civilizations. He consistently used his abilities for healing and service rather than personal gain or power, and he always maintained humility about being a channel for higher wisdom rather than claiming to be the source of the information. Now, I want to explore how Edgar's transition from health readings to past life readings opened up an entirely new understanding of human consciousness that connects directly to everything we've discovered about our cosmic origins and multidimensional nature. Write in the comments, "I can access higher knowing," if you recognize that these same consciousness abilities exist within your own spiritual potential. Edgar's transition from health readings to past life readings opened up an entirely new understanding of human consciousness that validates everything we've discovered about our cosmic origins. The moment that changed everything happened during what seemed like a routine health reading, when someone asked the simple question, "Why do I have this illness?" Edgar's response, while in his trance state, was completely unexpected and revolutionary. Instead of describing a physical cause or recommending a treatment, Edgar spontaneously revealed that in a previous life in France as a monk, this person had abused their body through extreme ascetic practices, and the current illness was the karmic result of that past life self-punishment. This wasn't information Edgar had consciously intended to access. It emerged naturally from the deeper levels of cosmic consciousness he was tapping into during his readings. The impact of this spontaneous revelation was profound because it demonstrated that physical health issues often have roots extending far beyond current lifetime experiences. This single reading opened an entirely new dimension of Edgar's psychic work, leading to thousands of what became known as life readings that explored the intricate connections between past incarnations, karmic patterns, and current life circumstances. But perhaps the most extraordinary revelation that emerged from these expanded readings was Edgar's understanding of how and when souls were originally created. According to the information he accessed, all souls were created simultaneously in the very beginning, when the first elements were given and forces set in motion for the earth plane. This wasn't a gradual process of soul creation over time. It was a single cosmic moment of unprecedented magnitude. Picture this cosmic birth moment. Edgar used the biblical reference to morning stars singing together to describe what actually happened when the news came of humanity's potential indwelling of the Creator's Spirit. At that moment of cosmic announcement, every individual soul that would ever incarnate on Earth came into being as part of that original multitude of spiritual entities. Your soul, my soul, every person who has ever lived or will live, we were all present at that primordial moment of creation. The transformation this understanding brings to how you view your relationships and life experiences is remarkable. That person who feels immediately familiar, when you meet them, the family member you've had an inexplicably close bond with since childhood, the stranger whose eyes hold depths of recognition you can't explain. These connections aren't coincidences. They're reunions between souls who have known each other since that original moment of cosmic creation. This hidden truth reveals that the soul groups Edgar discovered in his readings aren't randomly formed associations. They're clusters of consciousness that have been traveling together through space, time, and dimensions since the very beginning of the spiritual experiment we call human existence. The decisions you make about how to relate to the people in your life take on profound significance when you understand you're working with relationships that span eons of shared experience. The journey we've been exploring together, from our multidimensional origins through ancient civilizations, planetary sojourns, and the gender separation experiment, all of this has been experienced collectively by the same group of souls who began this cosmic adventure together as morning stars celebrating the possibility of embodied spiritual experience. Now I want to reveal Edgar Cayce's most profound teaching about the ultimate purpose behind this entire cosmic journey, because understanding why we chose to embark on this adventure through matter provides the key to successfully completing our spiritual mission and returning home transformed. Write in the comments, "We are morning stars," if you feel the deep recognition of your ancient cosmic connection with other souls on this journey. Edgar Cayce's most profound teaching about the ultimate purpose behind this entire cosmic journey reveals something that will fundamentally transform how you understand every experience you've ever had. The hidden truth behind why we chose to embark on this adventure through matter isn't about punishment, testing, or proving ourselves worthy. The fundamental purpose of existence is beautifully simple, yet infinitely profound. To know yourself, to be yourself, yet one with God and the creative forces of the universe. Think about the implications of this purpose for your current life journey. Since souls are immortal and will exist for an incredibly long time, potentially forever, it becomes essential to become acquainted with your true spiritual nature now, while you have the unique opportunity that physical incarnation provides. This isn't just philosophical contemplation or spiritual hobby. This is the most practical education you could possibly pursue, because you're going to be living with the consciousness you develop for eternity. The self-knowledge Edgar described involves understanding your relationship to creativity and life rather than destruction or darkness. Every decision you make, every mindset you adopt, every way you choose to express your creative energy either aligns you more closely with the life-generating forces of the universe or pulls you toward patterns that diminish and destroy. The impact of recognizing this choice in every moment cannot be overstated. You're literally sculpting your eternal identity through your daily decisions about how to think, feel, and act. But here's where this cosmic purpose becomes intensely personal and immediately practical. The reason most people struggle with spiritual development isn't because they lack the ability to connect with their divine nature. It's because they don't understand there are actually two distinct aspects of themselves operating simultaneously, separated by what Edgar called an extremely subtle but opaque veil between dimensions. Picture this veil in action through an experience you've probably had countless times. You wake up from a vivid dream filled with meaningful symbols, profound insights, or emotional experiences that feel more real than waking life. But as you get up to attend to physical needs, using the bathroom, getting a drink of water, checking your phone, something mysterious happens. When you return to capture or explore that dream, it's completely gone, as if it never existed. This common experience reveals the two parts of yourself that Edgar spent his entire career helping people understand and integrate. The dreaming consciousness that had those profound experiences represents your soul awareness, the part of you that naturally operates in expanded dimensions and has access to cosmic intelligence. The physical consciousness that lost the dream content represents your personality awareness, the part focused on material reality and bodily needs. The transformation that occurs when you truly grasp this distinction is remarkable. You realize that both aspects are equally real and equally you, but they're operating in different dimensional frequencies. The challenge and opportunity of human existence lies in learning to bridge these two aspects of consciousness while maintaining your ability to function effectively in both realms. The journey we've explored together, from cosmic origins through ancient civilizations to your current incarnation, has all been designed to help you develop the skills and wisdom needed to consciously navigate this veil between dimensions. Every spiritual practice, every moment of expanded awareness, every insight that connects you to something greater than your physical identity, is building your capacity to know yourself as both individual and universal consciousness simultaneously. Now I want to reveal the specific practical techniques Edgar recommended for strengthening this bridge between your soul consciousness and personality awareness. Because mastering this integration is the key to accessing all the cosmic abilities and spiritual technologies we've been exploring throughout this entire journey. Write in the comments, "I bridge both worlds," if you're ready to consciously develop your ability to operate as both individual soul and universal consciousness. The specific practical techniques Edgar recommended for strengthening this bridge between consciousness levels become clear when you understand the cosmic framework within which your soul is actually operating. Edgar described souls as moving through various planetary spheres on an epic journey seeking their way home to the Creator, with each sphere offering unique opportunities for consciousness expansion and spiritual development. Picture yourself not as a human being struggling with spiritual concepts, but as an immortal ray of consciousness deliberately choosing experiences across multiple dimensions to prepare yourself for the ultimate reunion with Divine Source. Each planetary sphere you sojourn in between Earth incarnations provides specialized training in different aspects of cosmic consciousness, some focused on developing universal love, others on mastering creative manifestation, still others on understanding the mathematical principles that govern reality itself. The transformation this perspective brings to your current life challenges is profound. Those difficulties that feel overwhelming, the relationships that trigger your deepest growth, the creative projects that stretch your capabilities beyond what seems possible. These aren't random hardships or lucky opportunities. They're precisely calibrated experiences designed to help your soul demonstrate that it's becoming worthy of and companionable to the Creator of the entire cosmos. Think about what it means to be a suitable companion for the consciousness that created galaxies, orchestrates the dance of subatomic particles, and maintains the delicate balance that allows life to flourish throughout the universe. You can't be boring, stagnant, or limited in your awareness. You must be constantly growing, expanding your understanding, and developing the breadth of experience that makes you an interesting and valuable participant in cosmic creativity. This reveals the hidden truth behind why spiritual growth sometimes feels so challenging and demanding. You're not just working on personal improvement or trying to feel better about your life circumstances. You're developing the consciousness capabilities needed to function as a cosmic being capable of collaboration with universal intelligence at the highest levels imaginable. Edgar's vision goes even deeper, describing human souls as rays of light that live on eternally until becoming one in essence with the source of all light and consciousness. This connects directly to ancient Egyptian wisdom about Ra, the great solar deity, expressing individual rays that adventure through the universe carrying their light and learning on journeys of expansion and discovery. The impact of recognizing yourself as one of these divine rays completely transforms how you approach spiritual development. You're not trying to become something you're not. You're remembering and reclaiming what you've always been, the light that shines through your eyes, the consciousness that animates your thoughts, the creative force that flows through your actions. This is literal divine essence expressing itself through your individual perspective and experience. The journey we've explored together, from your cosmic origins through ancient civilizations to your current incarnation, represents one ray's adventure through space and time, gathering wisdom and experience to eventually bring back to the unified source. Every insight you gain, every moment of expanded awareness, every decision to choose love over fear adds to the cosmic treasure you're accumulating for the ultimate reunion. Behind the scenes of your daily life, this cosmic education is constantly occurring. The mindset shifts you experience during meditation, the sudden flashes of understanding that come during quiet moments, the deep knowing that emerges when you're fully present with nature, or in loving connection with others. These are your ray of light, remembering its source and practicing for the eventual return journey home. Now, I want to reveal the specific meditation and consciousness practices that Edgar recommended for accelerating this remembering process and strengthening your ability to operate consciously as a ray of divine light while maintaining your effectiveness in physical reality. Write in the comments, "I am a ray of divine light," if you feel ready to consciously embrace your identity as cosmic consciousness exploring physical experience. The specific meditation and consciousness practices Edgar recommended for accelerating this remembering process become much more meaningful when you understand the true nature of your current Earth experience. The third dimension we're operating in represents what Edgar called the realm of cause and effect, the causal realm specifically designed as a testing ground for consciousness development. He revealed that the biblical book of Job was actually written by the high priest Melchizedek to explain exactly what this realm is about and why souls choose to incarnate here. Picture Earth as the ultimate spiritual laboratory, where souls prove their desires and priorities through actual lived experience, rather than theoretical understanding. Here, in this dense physical reality, where your thoughts don't instantly manifest and your actions have delayed consequences, you demonstrate whether your treasure truly lies in eternal spiritual values and relationships, or whether you become trapped in purely material concerns and temporary satisfactions. The transformation this understanding brings to your daily challenges is remarkable. Every difficult decision you face, every moment when you must choose between immediate gratification and long-term wisdom, every relationship that tests your capacity for unconditional love, these aren't random hardships or unfortunate circumstances. They're precisely designed opportunities for your soul to prove to itself and the cosmic community what you've actually learned during your sojourns in other dimensional realms. Behind the scenes of what appears to be ordinary human existence, you're participating in the most sophisticated consciousness development program in the known universe. The mindset you maintain during stress, the decisions you make when no one is watching, the way you treat others when it costs you something to be kind. These moments reveal the authentic spiritual development you've achieved beyond all the meditation, techniques, and philosophical understanding. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything about how you approach this testing realm. You're not actually a human being trying to become spiritual. You're a celestial light being temporarily sojourning in terrestrial form for only 85 to 105 years before returning to your natural state in the spirit realms. Understanding your celestial nature helps you navigate physical existence with the proper perspective of someone who knows they're visiting a foreign country rather than someone who believes this dense reality is their permanent home. The impact of recognizing yourself as a cosmic being having a temporary Earth experience is profound. You can take your physical challenges seriously without becoming overwhelmed by them, knowing they're temporary assignments rather than permanent conditions. You can invest fully in your relationships and creative projects while maintaining the spacious awareness that comes from knowing your true identity extends far beyond your current role and circumstances. Since you're naturally a cosmic being who has temporarily accepted the limitations of physical form, reconnecting with your celestial consciousness becomes not just spiritually fulfilling, but practically essential for fulfilling your true purpose on Earth. The journey you came here to complete requires accessing the wisdom, abilities, and expanded perspective that are your birthright as a ray of divine consciousness. Every moment you spend in meditation, contemplation, or conscious connection with your spiritual nature isn't time taken away from your earthly responsibilities. It's recalibration time that allows your cosmic intelligence to operate more effectively through your physical vehicle, making you more capable of fulfilling your spiritual mission and serving the collective awakening of human consciousness. Now, I want to explore the profound implications of what happens when enough celestial beings remember their true nature while still in physical form, because this collective awakening represents the next stage of human evolution that Edgar Cayce prophesied would transform life on Earth beyond anything we can currently imagine. Write in the comments, "I remember I'm visiting Earth," If you feel ready to embrace your identity as a celestial being on a temporary mission in physical form, the profound implications of what happens when enough celestial beings remember their true nature while still in physical form leads us to the most extraordinary prophecy Edgar Cayce ever made about humanity's future. This collective awakening represents the next stage of human evolution, a transformation so fundamental that it will change everything about how consciousness operates on this planet. When sufficient numbers of cosmic beings remember they're temporarily visiting Earth rather than being trapped here, something unprecedented occurs. The dimensional barriers that have kept us separated from our full spiritual abilities begin to dissolve. The technologies of consciousness that were lost during ancient civilizations start to re-emerge, but this time wielded by souls who have gained the wisdom to use them responsibly. This isn't science fiction or distant prophecy. This is the transformation happening right now as more people awaken to their multidimensional nature and begin operating consciously as bridges between the celestial and terrestrial realms. You're not just learning about these concepts. You're participating in the most significant spiritual evolution humanity has ever experienced. If you've made it this far in our exploration together, you're clearly one of those souls who came here with a mission to assist in this cosmic awakening. The fact that these ideas resonate with something deep inside you isn't coincidence. It's recognition of why you chose to incarnate during this extraordinary time in Earth's history. This channel is dedicated to helping fellow celestial travelers remember their true nature and develop the consciousness tools needed for navigating this unprecedented transformation. If you've found value in this cosmic perspective, subscribing ensures you'll continue receiving the insights and practical guidance that can accelerate your own awakening journey. Let me know you made it to the end by writing, "I remember my cosmic mission," in the comments below. Reading your responses helps me understand which aspects of these teachings resonate most deeply with souls who are ready for this level of consciousness exploration. If this conversation touched something true within your cosmic memory, that like button helps other travelers find their way to these revelations when they're ready to remember their own multidimensional heritage. There's a video right here that explores the specific techniques Edgar Cayce recommended for developing the psychic abilities that are your natural birthright as a cosmic being. Click and continue with me over there, because what you're about to discover will give you practical tools for accessing the expanded consciousness we've been exploring together.